you always keep that human part in check before you think about the title, trust me, it will make a huge difference because you're going straight into the human being. That part is in check, then you can go into the title. And same thing goes for a teacher, for a doctor, for a bus driver, for a taxi driver, your Uber driver. That humanity part of it is not in check. It does not matter what we do with our titles. We're just stuck.
Welcome back to the Corner Talks podcast. I have my good friend here.
How's it going, man? Happy to be back.
No, it shouldn't be about anything. Like, this is one life.
Yep, one life? Like, fucking do it.
My guy.
Like, she just got it. She totally understood it.
20 years old when I started just watching a lot of movies.
And it tells a story. I want to tell a story.
And a creative and social worker, Ahmed Suli. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
What's going on, Daniel? How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Ahmed, I'm honored to have you on the podcast as a guest after we connected at the Nothing Fancy comedy show, headlined by the one and only Nima Naz.
For sure, man. 100%. You were doing your thing that day, and then you approached me for a quick interview, and we had a great conversation, and we kicked off ever since. So
yeah,
thank
100%.
You for
No, for sure. Me. No, I loved your energy from the moment I met you, right? Like, you were just like free spirited, kind of like bringing in this optimistic aura, just happy to be there. And I just love the fact that you admired my hustle because every time I turned around or like, saw at the corner of my eye, I just saw you like, just kind of saying this guy's always working. I love it, and
you were in there, man. You were in your zone, so I had to make sure, like, you heard that, because sometimes we're moving so fast, and we don't, we need that feedback just to tell us that, you're on the right path. And if I can do that for you at that moment, buddy, like you were doing a fantastic job. So I can't wait to watch the recording when you put it together.
Yeah, 100%, bro. Just sent the first draft of the other episode I kind of recorded for them, so I really hope that gets posted soon for you to watch, see what my talent's all about in that direction. But thank you again. Talk about, giving recognition to fellow artists, fellow creatives, or your fellow peers. You called me, a humble individual, someone that is very genuine, and someone that kind of knows what he wants with his path. And, I've heard that before, but it's just really refreshing to hear from someone that I've never met before in my life. That, like you said, you've only known me 5 minutes, but you can get a good vibe from me. And that's really what I try to exude, try to, emulate to people, right? Is with this podcast or in person, right? Is, I'm just like you guys, I'm just trying to make it and just trying to figure out my path. And if I can help you guys, right? I admire the underdog. I admire the people that are not heard. This is the platform to kind of share your story. And this is why I created the podcast.
No, fantastic. And you're doing a great job doing that. Like, it's, like I said to you, sometimes we're moving so fast in our life, and we're doing so many things that Exactly. We need people to take the time to just, remind us that, hey, are we on the right path? Are we getting off track? And again, like, many of the stuff that you were doing spoke for itself, right? You were on the grind, you were hustling, you were friendly, you were kind, and you were very humble. So that part, it only takes 5 minutes for me to see that. So, everything else that comes to you, man, kudos to you, brother.
Appreciate you, Ahmed. Appreciate you. So going back to the show, it's amazing to see, that everybody comes together as a community, right? There's a mutual appreciation for comedy. You and I were both there for the reasons of, appreciating Nima Naz's talent. But we're also there to be supportive of others' passions, right? Like their journeys, as we discussed, right? So you can kind of like meet a whole array of people. And this is why I enjoy attending these shows is, other than the fact that I'm with Nima Naz, I'm also the fact that I'm with meeting people like yourself and learning more about you, really, because I had no idea why you were attending the show. I didn't know if you were just a general patron. And then as you connect, you start to realize you have a lot of similarities and common interests. Which we'll discuss more on the podcast, particularly with starting a podcast show I mentioned when I introduced you, and primarily mental health, right? You're a social worker, which is amazing to me. Now, being an advocacy of mental health, something that you do as a full-time job for the Toronto School Board, I want to know, why is mental health such an important subject matter for you?
Wow, that's a very good question. So my title is a child and youth worker.
Okay.
Which is also like a branch of the social work, and our main focus is working with children and people with special needs, and including mental health, as well as children with autism, developmental disabilities, and the bracket is pretty big.
Right.
So So your question was why mental health is very important, and over the years I've come to understand that, like, without the healthy mindset for you to carry your regular day, right, you're very stagnant. You're stuck.
Yeah.
Right? You can't move forward. And I think many times we've generalized mental health to being, just actually doing arts and crafts and going out on an outing. And I think mental health is bigger than that over the years, what I've learned. And mental health is just you taking 5 minutes of your time to check in on me while I was just spending my time with my friend, and then just coming in and just lifting me up and saying, you know what, hey, Ahmed, I want to give you this platform. Let's go together. That little bit of addition to my mental health had huge impact on my lifestyle. So mental health, why is it important? Is honestly, without that positive, healthy mindset, we are stuck. We are stagnant. All right. It doesn't matter what you do. For example, what I always tell my students and my staff is that you're human first before you're a student, before you're a teacher. If that human part is struggling, it doesn't matter what you do as a teacher or as a student. You're just being a dead horse.
Yeah.
If you're a struggling human being, you can't be good at your job as a filmmaker, as a content maker. It does not matter. That human part has to be in check. So mental health, honestly, is just keeping that human part in check. And if that part is in check, everything else that comes after that is fulfilling, and you can live a healthy lifestyle. So, and some of the things that I do to promote mental health in my line of work is honestly just providing a space for people to come in through the door and have a seat and have a tea, and we just talk. Yeah. And everything else that comes after that is a bonus. But if you can come through the door and just sit down with me, that's a big start to your mental health into a positive end, and the rest is just a bonus.
Yeah, no, for sure. That was well said, right? And like you said, mental health is not just about figuring it out, the path as an artist, and kind of having clarity in order to pursue your passions. It's really being comfortable and confident with who you are when you're by yourself. Like, how are you when you don't have the distractions, right? The luxuries of materialism, or friends, family, vanity, things like that. Like, how are you truly when you're by yourself? And the pandemic, we've seen a lot of this, right? It's kind of like people were forced to be confined to a room. I was as well. Like, I was always naturally growing up, like, really well on my own. Like, I didn't really need much interaction. I enjoyed solitude. But as you get older, I guess things change, especially with my career. I realized, I enjoy like going out. I enjoy talking to people. So what I'm saying is the pandemic kind of brought me back to that mindset, and it kind of forced me to, I don't know, get in touch with who I was as a child, like kind of find that curiosity again, like discover new hobbies, which I discovered through my artworks and this podcast, for instance. And I think it's so important, like you said, is to have that realization that if you're not comfortable with who you are, you won't excel in other areas of your life. Because that's something that why I think I was struggling for many years with pursuing this passion, is other than the fact that not knowing where to start, I really wasn't happy with myself, and there was a lot of changes I had to make in my life, toxic relationships and friendships, careers that weren't fulfilling me, that weren't serving me. So yeah, that's very important what you said, Ahmed. And I was going to ask you, like, how you leverage your employment, or how you use your employment to leverage your advocacy for mental health. And you said it right there. You're allowing that space for students to discuss their problems. That's something that I've always, kind of mentioned to people. That's why, again, I do this podcast. Is you'd be surprised when you bring up mental health. There are people that cope differently, but there are people that have different traumas, right? That things that trigger them, things that they went through that you wouldn't really know otherwise if you look at their social media.
No, like 100%. To me, one of the things that really frustrates me, just in general, just working in this line of field, or just working with people, is that we tend to always focus on the person's title, but not on the humanity part. We just focus on the title, right? Yeah. So for example, the student's title is a student. That's his title. Yep. But behind that student is a human being, right? So behind that human being, for example, do you have breakfast this morning before you came to class? Do you have a good night's sleep? Do you have a rough night, which is not a good night? So all those things matter, because when that person's coming into that building at 8 o'clock, you have to understand the humanity is coming in with. And if that part is not checked, it doesn't matter what we do from 8 to 3. We're just running around in a circle. right?
Yeah.
And that's how you get the behaviors. That's how you get the frustrations. That's how you get the student who's not learning. And eventually over time, he's going to lose his interest and he doesn't want to be in that environment. You guys don't want him there. It gets frustrating, gets toxic, and is unhealthy both ways. However, if you always keep that human part in check before you think about the title, trust me, it will make a huge difference because you're going straight into the human being. That part is in check, then you can go into the title. And same thing goes for a teacher, for a doctor, for a bus driver, for a taxi driver, your Uber driver. That humanity part of it is not in check. It does not matter what we do with our titles. We're just stuck.
Yeah, no, that was a good point, man. It's we get so caught up in the society. That's what I meant by the vanity, right? Is we like to label things, categorize them. It's just easier for us to conceptualize. But the reality is everyone has a different context. We're more complex than you think. And you said it beautifully. It's like this child may not be doing well in school, but let's dig deeper. Like, why is he not doing well? You know what I mean? Like, where's he coming from?
Right.
And if he's actively not doing well because he's choosing not to do well, maybe because that's a sign, an indication of a different form of intelligence or a different passion that hasn't been channeled yet, right? It's like, that's why so many people like have dropped out. That's why there's all these stories of even celebrities, right, that have said, if I've gotten the care or attention from my teachers, I might have actually stayed in school. I know Tarantino, my hero, said that he dropped out of grade 6, but he said, it's not that I hated school. Like, I enjoyed learning. I just didn't like the people that were administering it, right? There's a lot of condescension. So someone like yourself that kind of breaks all that and says, no, I'm just talking to you like a friend, you know, like, I want to know like what's going on in your life. Like, I kind of get touched by this, like emotional, because I'm saying to myself, fuck, I wish I had someone like you. and many times in high school, man. Yeah.
It's why I got into this, because I also had like some, you know, my experiences with adults that I wish could have done things differently, right?
Of course.
And I'm telling you, you would see, if you go ahead straight for, if you go right off the bat from the morning straight for the humanity, forget that part of the student for like half an hour, just go in as a human. Trust me, you'll see the difference.
Yeah.
In that person, and they will come back.
I believe it, man. They'll come back because they have that they confide in you, right? Like, they have that trust with you, and that's what's important, right? And a lot of people, let's be honest, it's a gift, and I could tell right away, like, you have that gift that people open up. There are times, even with myself, like, people will just say their inner deepest thoughts, and I'll be like, how did that happen? And I realize, I think it's just I give them that natural comfortability. So those are things to be prideful of, for sure.
Dude, don't lose that, man. Keep adding on that.
Thank you. I appreciate
it. The quality as a human being, what makes you who you are. Don't ever lose that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. No, honestly, I the more, you know, when you're younger, you're, you know, who really like elevates you in those qualities, right? Like, people don't really in high school like think about those things, but when you get older, you realize like how much of a superpower that is, that you make people feel comfortable and make people feel themselves. You know what I mean? I think that's something that we both share, man. So really happy we connected on that. I want to get back to, like, you know, this whole thing about providing perspective and understanding, you know, the student that walks into that door. These conversations you have with them, what do you find is the biggest challenges these people face or encounter when trying to prevent or overcome stress, anxiety, depression?
Ooh, that's a very good question. So are you talking about in terms of the students?
Yeah, like, what do you notice, like a pattern maybe? Like, is it the school board? Is it the way parents are teaching their children?
Man, so that's a very good question, because I think it's a mix of a couple of things.
Right.
One, especially the last 2 years, the child that comes to school is completely different than the child that used to go to school 2 years ago. COVID has kind of made a lot of changes. So I'll give you a scenario. So imagine if you started if you started grade 3 2 years ago,
right?
Before COVID, you just started off. You were in semester, you start off with your friends, you're hanging out, COVID happened, shut down online learning. 2 years later, what grade are you in? In grade 5, about to go into grade 6. So you have missed out a lot of social skills, also a lot of like academics, because remember, online learning is not the same as in-person learning, right?
Right.
On top of that, we have the addition of social media and online, right? So the kid who's walking into the school at 8 o'clock is already coming in with a bag full of all kinds of things.
Oh my God.
You just imagine, right? Like,
right.
He's remember, because this has made a huge change in our lives, right?
Of course.
And many kids have a cell phone in their hand, right? So by the time when he arrives at 8 o'clock, he's already coming in with a bag full of all kinds of other information that we have to slowly peel off like an onion.
Baggage,
one
really.
layer at a time, a bunch of baggage.
Yeah.
And by the time, let's just say it's 10 o'clock, that student maybe might be ready to learn. But so the hardest challenge is that we as a special education system, that we're right now, we depend on other resources to help us sometimes complete the day. Right. Whether it's online learning, whether it's the internet, whether it's technology, whether it's the lockdown, the shutdown, we lost a lot of control, right? Yeah. So what has happened was that especially the last 2 years, we've been just at a tug of war in terms of like even the behaviors have increased. However, towards the end of this year, we're starting to see how things used to look 2 years ago, right? And the first time we're going to have an actual healthy full school year is actually going to be September when we go in for the next school year, the 2022-2023. So with that being said, like the most difficult challenge for us to really actually just say get through the day or to support students is that we are balancing so many other things. And it's not like how we used to when we were in school where we're directly connected to the teacher. Right now, I can get a notification, multiple notifications on my phone, which just distracts me from the lesson. I'm checking the notification. I'll come back. The lesson's already gone to the next part and I'll have to catch up, right? And then the other thing, you also have, what do you say to, to a young child who might be 14, 13, but has a huge social media clout?
Yeah.
At the age at 13, right? Like over 10,000 followers.
That's crazy. Yeah, I can't even relate. I didn't even have social media, I think, at his age.
But we didn't have it. We just missed. I graduated in 2010, so I just missed it.
Oh,
right?
okay.
The social media, era. You had to go home to connect to Wi-Fi. You had to use Facebook.
But it wasn't as prevalent, man. Like I remember the posts; they were shitty. Right? Like everyone had like shitty filters, and like they were taking pictures of like what they ate. Like it wasn't vanity, based.
But what do you say to a kid who has over 20,000 followers who's getting notifications while you're teaching a lesson?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't even know. Yeah, I couldn't process that.
And he has to respond to some of these notifications because sometimes could be somebody from that has cloud that wants to push it.
Could be business, exactly,
right? And he has all the rights to answer that phone call, right? So
wow.
So you see, that's where where we're battling with at times, right? So once that's out of the question, and we have the student, in a focused mind state, it's just a regular student.
Amazing.
But you have to get rid of these layers first before you can actually get to that level.
What it is, you have to bridge the disconnect, right? As much as like we might be similar in generations, it's closer in generations as opposed to our parents. We're far along, right? Like as the generations, progress, continue, like it's going to be more and more of a gap for us, and we need to find that kind of understanding, that common ground. That's why a lot of teachers, when we were growing up, maybe struggled with us, is that they didn't really put in the effort, I believe, to kind of understand maybe what we were going through, because we were the transitional generation, right? We're millennials, both you and I. So, and science people that study this, like sociology, have even said it, like that generation is the pivot, right? It's kind of like the in between. They grew up like the Gen X's, but they're become adults living in a Gen Z's world, right? So it's kind of, I'm still wrapping my head around it, because it's like people kind of, older boomers and stuff, like there was a time when you had to call someone from your house. I'm like, I remember that.
Right.
Like I remember that too, man. Like I was like 14 years old when I got my first phone, and it was a flip phone. It wasn't even a smartphone. It wasn't until I was like 18, right? Like it's like I was there too, bro. Like relax. Like,
do you remember the LG chocolate?
100%. I was just about to ask you. Thank you for saying that. I got the LG Shine. Stainless steel. Yes, man, bro. I was kind of bougie. We're old. Yeah. We're old, bro. We're old. But I remember getting that LG. I still have it too, because for me, it's a gorgeous phone. But I was so proud of that phone, man. I remember like paying some X amount of money for like 200 texts. Just crazy, different time, man. No data, school systems. Like when we would go to the library, I remember trying to show someone a funny YouTube video. Bro, it was blocked. School board blocks you. The school board blocks you. Now I'm hearing like you can do anything. You can go on Instagram when you're in school, and I'm like, yo, like everything has changed. And I don't know about you. Maybe I'm romanticizing the past, but I miss that, man. Like I use social media. I'm kind of like a hypocrite in this, but I use social media to leverage my business. It's gotten me this far. But if I could choose another way, I would, because I don't know. There's something about connecting with people in person. Meeting people spontaneously, that always kind of thrilled me, right? Like just looking forward to connecting with someone. Now it's like it takes away some of that beauty. I even find myself kind of drawn into the phone, like way too much, attached to it. In times when I'm watching a movie, believe it or not. Now that doesn't happen in a movie theater because I'm in an environment that doesn't encourage me to do that. But that's the hardest part for me, is like, I was never like that. You know what I mean? And like you said, when you're dealing with clout, I don't have 10,000, 20,000, but I know what it's like to be receiving notifications. Hey, can you do a side job? Can you help me out with this project? Did you send the notes for this? We got a podcast in 10 minutes with Ahmed. You know what I mean? Like it's a lot going on.
But you can balance that as an adult. You can balance that as an adult.
You're right.
Know when to turn that switch off when
exactly.
At 13, 14,
yeah.
Right? And now it's like, let's say finances starts to come in.
Right.
A little different too, right? Yeah. And that kind of changes. Why do I'm never gonna work a part-time job? Why?
There you go. I know, right? They won't even know the hustle, right? Man. Fuck, for sure.
So, and now think about it. Now think about what we used to do back in the day for, I know kind of reminiscent on the old past, but like to get a job, you have to go build your resume, go drop it off, boom, 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 wait a phone call. If you get a phone call, if you don't, you go
follow up if you don't hear from them, right?
But now if you don't get to do any of that, if you get to skip the stage, right? But now how does that help the mental health when, let's say, this young person, he's, let's say, at 19 and does not have the same amount of clout that he did at 14?
Yeah.
Right. And he does not have the same type of amount of likes that he has on his post. He doesn't get the same type of reaction that he does. Right. Many of his fans are older now, onto different, are interested in other things. He's not the same anymore, but he has never worked a full-time job. He's never had to look for a job. But what does that do to that person? Right. And these are the little things that we're not seeing right now, but we might see in the next 10 years. That some of the issues that it might have on like the younger generation who really do well in the social media world. But however, again, this is a new avenue of finances and the lifestyle. So I'm sure a lot of them will do well. But is that just, you still got to be a kid.
It's honestly, man, it's all about adaptability, right? Like at the end of the day, you said it right. It's like as someone who's 27, right? Someone like yourself, in our 20s, as young adults here, we understand, or adults, we understand the importance of shutting off. We understand, balancing. We've matured, right? It took we had those formative years to kind of get to that point, and knowing how to handle those stresses. And that's why I often connect it back to like fame, right? Like when I was a teenager, you want to like prove it to everybody, like, yeah, I'm gonna make it. I want to like, make it by 25. Like I want to be rich and fame. But then you realize, like, seriously, man, as I get older, I say shit like maybe God has a plan, man, because I don't think I'd be like mentally there. You know what I mean? Like I can see why people like go into drugs and like really destroy their lives, because it's the maturity, really. Like I remember reading a quote from Drake. It's like, getting to a point of success just means you have to work even harder. And it's so true. Like you don't just coast once you reach the top. You actually have to work extra hard. So you think you're working hard now. And like, I feel like I'm working hard now. It's like, damn, like when I do get to that point in my potential, it's even more demanding. But like you said, is by going through those years, by going through the ringer, you'll be resilient, right? You'll be ready for that opportunity. So 100% agree with you on that. And thank you again for your contribution and working with these children, because they need it, man. They need that guidance, man.
And by the way, whoever said maturity goes with age, lied to us, man. It does not go with age.
Yeah, no.
Maturity. You can be mature at 14, much more mature than someone who's 25, and you can be at 35 and starting to mature.
Brother, there's so many. We know people in our past that you know what I mean, like that are older, or like you thought by this age they'd be more mature, and proven every day, man. Like it has nothing to do with that. For me, it's all about life experiences and what teaches you. That's what makes you age faster. That's why I think I've always been more mature amongst my peers, for a fact, in high school, because just witnessing what went on with my family and a lot of the hardships matured me faster, right? That's why maybe I sometimes don't maybe see myself blending in so much, right? But at the same time, I kind of look back and say, like, there was a reason why, right? There's advantages to everything, right? But nevertheless, wouldn't have it any other way. Proud of who got to be proud of who you become, right?
For sure.
So speaking of social media, right, and clout, throughout our interaction at the Nothing Fancy Comedy Show, we both agreed on the importance of creating content and the value it can bring to the creator as well as the audience. And as mentioned before, and evidently seen on your Instagram page, you have a podcast of your own called The Suli Show, as advertised right here, if you're watching the video version, guys. So I want to know from this outlet you've created, what subjects are discussed on your podcast, and why did you pursue this creative outlet for yourself?
Well, that's a very good question. So mainly my podcast was created to tell the stories of just average people, exceptional human beings.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, this morning I was in the elevator. I was with a lady who's in her 80s.
Okay.
And we just had a brief conversation. And right then and then, I was thinking my podcast is meant for someone like her, because someone like her, she might not be a celebrity, she might not be someone who's known, but she has a story to tell, even if it's for 5 minutes. And if you think about it, how often a bus driver has a story to tell, the taxi driver has a story to tell, you, Daniel, has a story to tell.
Yes.
And if every individual has a story to tell. So my podcast was originally created to provide a platform for people to tell their stories, to share their stories. In addition to that, I also, one of the parts of my podcast that I like to do a lot is also provide a platform for the homeless community to start having conversation with them so they can share their stories. In the past, I've worked with them a lot in my previous work. So I've been very connected with that community. So it was also for an addition for people like them to share their stories. And on top of that, I'm a huge sports enthusiast. I've been playing all sports all my life,
Nice.
from football, soccer, American football to basketball. And I've also used this time to create a platform for young athletes and young up and coming sports companies to use my platform to promote their work and to promote their skills. So and it's, again, it's not to charge people or anything. It's the platform for people to share their stories. And if my DM anyone contacts me right off the bat, it's open to them if they want to share their story or if they want to post something. And that is originally why I started this path.
Amazing. Yeah. And more evidence to why we connected. All the things you describe about your podcast is what I told you, right? And I didn't even know anything about your podcast. I just kind of told you where my intentions were with this. And we see eye to eye on it, right? I told you, it's like, I'm not trying to look for hunt down the verified accounts. Eventually, that'd be great. But for now, it's kind of like the up and comer, right? Like, what's going on in their mind, like what makes them special, what makes them tick.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
So you're on the right track for that. I love that idea. Hopefully I'll be a guest on your show one day.
And the thing is that, like, we're always, like you said, like, the verified account that people chase, it's the cloud that people chase. But if you think about it, like, there's a lot of stories. Like, there's some there are Canadian war vets that live in my neighborhood. That are not
right.
Away. They have a story, right? My teacher, the principal that I work with, she has a story. So create, and then you never know what you're gonna get, what live gem you're gonna get from someone random, and it has helped me in the past. I always talk to people random, like I just talk to you. So
right,
and I've always picked up gems from random people that I use in my life. So
as long as you
put them behind a camera,
100%, man. As long as you have like a theme to it, I told you, it's like for me, the verified accounts, it's great and all, and there's been opportunities or times when I've interacted with them, like, to try and get them on the podcast, but I genuinely I'm only interested in people at my level or people in my community, like not even my community, I mean like my industry, that are at the level of they're pursuing their passions, their dreams, because the ones at the verified level, I feel like their stories are already been told. I know there's always something to be discovered, but I genuinely am more curious at this stage of my life, and though the people that I'm kind of like, I see at the same caliber, right? And it's like, eventually I want it to come natural, where it's like the people I work with, whether it's like the sound designer or like the set designer, right? They'll come on the podcast. And I think this is a great platform where it's like, you imagine like getting a window into like Scorsese, like his mind and like how he created a project, right? That's how I told you. That's how I pitched it to you, right? It's like, that's how I see it. So it's only a matter of time, right? You just got to keep consistent, keep at it. And same for you, right? It's just bring in people that you really want to talk about. Joe Rogan is a huge inspiration for me on podcasts. I enjoy hearing him, and Howard Stern as well. He's more radio, but he is really essentially the first podcaster. But what I'm saying
I have
is,
on my satellite, I listen to Howard once in a while.
There you go, right?
Serious, I like his style, the way he does it, but it's not for everyone. But I like his style of interview.
No, 100%. Man. It's very different than Joe Rogan. They're two different people, but at the same time, they both have they share the same vision, and that is bringing on people they actually want to talk to. You know what I mean? They're not bringing on someone that's like hot or relevant or someone recommended. They're bringing on people like, no, I really want to talk to them. And your case in point, like, as much as like I hype you up, like you're a great guy, whatever, if I didn't really want to get to know you more and like, discover more about you, obviously we wouldn't have this conversation. But that's the whole point of doing these podcasts. It's like, no, I really
you proved to me that what the words that you say is followed by action, 100%. From the moment we met and we had this conversation, you follow up with me ever since then. And if that's coming from me, man, like I can't imagine how others who I don't know that know you, how they feel about you. So keep that up, bro.
I'm so happy that you said that, because I'm happy that you noticed it, because so many people, especially our age, they'll say, yeah, we'll keep in touch. We'll let you know. Right. And it's like, it's such a, like, I tell my buddy from day one, like the first podcast episode, I believe it's called Showing Up or Keep the Dream Alive. Basically, like, say, put your money where your mouth is. Like, if you're going to actually do something, like, do it. You know what I mean? Like, if I told you I'm going to be on the podcast, guess what? In the next week or so, expect a phone call. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's how it should be, man. Because people will take
you did exactly that. So
thank you,
I'm telling you, man, I'm an advocate of that. Like, I appreciate that myself. So
yeah, sure. No, I we see eye to eye on that for sure. So I want to know, getting back to this podcast, how has the podcast you've created enriched your life and the lives of the people that listen to it? Have you gotten any feedback from it? Have you noticed any results?
Oh, huge. One of the earlier episodes that I did was it's called the Horn of Africa.
Okay.
Which was, so I'm from the Horn of Africa. My nationality is Somalian. And one of the things I've always been involved, just as a growing up, like I've heavily been involved in the issues that goes on in Africa, and including some of the things that relates to war crimes and issues in terms of that. Right. And one of the first episodes that I did was I had a good friend of mine who's a journalist to come on my show, and we talked about the Horn of Africa and some of the things that happened in the last, since 9/11 and the war on terror, and how that region has been affected, and the lives have been affected and stuff. And I remember after I did that episode, the feedback that I got from people, not from North America, but actually from people from Africa, from people from the Horn, people from Ethiopia, Eritrea, Kenya, in that region, and actually, like, to me, the feedback that I got from them in terms of the simplest way to put it was a thank you for shining a light on this issue. And to me, that has like enriched me in so many ways, my soul, where I just feel so good afterwards, where like I just want to not stop do this work. I want to shine a light on more issues that's going on. So once after that moment, I realized that one of the main ways I'm going to use my podcast is to, honestly, which is a life goal, is to use this platform to shine a light on some of the issues that goes on overseas that we don't get to see. And that includes some of the war crimes, that includes some of the war on terror, and how certain lives are affected that we don't get to see, right? And like, for example, if if God forbid, like if a child here is passed away, we get to hear their life story, their dreams, and so was killed by a drunk driver. He would have been growing up to be a doctor. But what does that say about a young child who similarly passed away in Yemen or in Africa, but that would never get to hear about his dreams and his goals, and if he wanted to be a doctor, right? And he was just also a casualty of war, and he had nothing to do with anything. Wow. So my platform, also, like, one of the main goals that I have is to bring a light to people like that, to tell their stories that we never get to hear, and to share their stories. And and once I got that feedback, it honestly enriched me, where I felt so empowered to want to continue to do this work. And there's another one coming up soon, so hopefully I get to share that soon.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. That's something that kind of crosses my mind every day. It's like someone that passes away, in Toronto, or gets murdered. You mourn the death, right, by remembering their life, or like maybe their aspirations. But you're right, like there's millions of children around the world that die of poverty, hunger, like famine, and violence, warfare. And it's tragic, but we don't hear from them. We don't really get to know their stories. By you being a voice, for these people, is a really noble cause. So really appreciate you mentioning that. And it just changes the dynamic of what a podcast is meant to be for, right? It's not just entertainment, right? It's kind of like a political message, something that you can provide your own kind of commentary and be a voice for change, if you will. Right. So
right.
Amazing, man.
So yeah, something that's, like I said, started local, where, talking to people that are in my community, whereas the city now has gone over to overseas, where it can also impact other people that might want to voice their voice. So why not?
Amazing, man. Amazing. So again, with social media, we've discussed its benefits and obviously its setbacks. You've witnessed it firsthand with your students. I want to know, like, why must we continue to utilize social media as a means of personal or artistic expression, even when society increasingly deems it as toxic?
Well, there's no going back. That's the first thing. We've gone this far already. So it's only we have to get better and get smarter with it and use it in a healthy way. But I think it's honestly, it is a blessing more than a curse if you know how to use it right. I think we've been conditioned to think that the use of social media and the access, how easy it is to access it, it's become something that is unhealthy, which is possible. Too much of it is unhealthy. However, this is a blessing in terms of the fact that I can, at this moment, as soon as I get off the show with you, I can DM a person who lives thousands of miles away,
right,
get in contact with them and spend next maybe hour with them on the phone.
Right.
Sure. That is unheard of. Right. I remember the generation, my mother used to send me to the mall to get phone cards so she can call overseas. And she's like, scratch back. I don't know if you remember those.
Oh my God. I remember that actually. Yeah.
Right?
It was a big deal. It was a big deal to call. Even like my parents, like for Italy, right? Like it was pricey as hell. Yeah.
But remember those guys that had the phone card stations and that the mall?
The kiosks. Yeah. The whole setup, man. Yeah.
You don't need them anymore. Now I can FaceTime through WhatsApp. I can FaceTime through Instagram.
Bro. Yeah.
Right. My nana who lives in Italy, and I don't need anything. Right?
Amazing.
So yes, it is. And I really think, however, just like everything else, like too much of it is not good for you with appropriate control. And I'm also a huge advocate for phones, at least until they're maybe 10.
Right.
Huge advocate for that is because you're competing with you creating a huge distraction that wasn't really needed.
So you're saying we're framing giving phones to children until they're at least 10 years old?
10, yeah. For example, give them a tablet instead of a cell phone.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? Where a tablet you have to depend on using Wi-Fi, whereas a cell phone they can have data, and I can use it while I'm on the bus and crossing the road.
Exactly.
Right. And just creating little barriers to help us live a healthier lifestyle while using phones. But besides that, man, I'm a strong advocate for social media.
Amazing. No, that's a solid point, right? It's like there's no going back, so let's first accept that, because a lot of people might say, like, I wish it was, my parents joke around, like, I wish Silicon Valley, shut down and like we didn't have this. It's like, no, the reality is it's going to keep going. It's only going to get better or worse depending on how you look at it. The point being is that it's always going to be around. You got to make it work for yourself. Now, if it's harming yourself, like for me, I'm a big advocate, like, some apps, sometimes they bother me or like it gets to my mental health. Guess what? Shut it down. Shut the shit down. You know what I mean? Exit it from my life. And I feel literally a weight off my shoulders. Now, can I expect everyone to do the same? No, but I can control myself. And that's something that I've kind of grown into. You know what I mean? That idea. There was a time when I was growing up where I always believed like, I can help and inspire.
You can't help everyone.
Yeah, right? But maybe like influence. Yeah, exactly. And then I realized, Ahmed, right? It's that even with relationships, right? In the past, it's like, only you can control your decisions and how you feel about a situation. You can't make them make them feel what you feel. You know what I mean? You
can only control your action. You can't control their reaction.
Exactly, man. Exactly. And you learn that, like, again, talking about maturity, right? It's like, how do you teach that to a 13-year-old that hasn't gone through life yet, right? That's maturity. That's life experiences.
Right.
And you understand that. And that's why with social media, that's why I asked you that. It's like, even though people deem it as toxic, you're kind of saying, no, look at, choose to see what you choose to see, right? Like how you choose to react to it. And the reality is like, you could see Facebook, Instagram, it's harming my students. They're coming in with anxiety and depression, stress. But then you look at it as like, no, like it's an opportunity. It's a tool to connect with these people, to continue the conversations with people that I love, like my family and students as well, right? Maybe I can carry a conversation over to keep in touch with them that technology in the past didn't afford me to, right? So
100%.
Great mentality, man. I love that about you. Always keeping it positive. So I wanted to get into now, the one thing I respect about people and that I actively discuss on this podcast is the notion of possessing a purpose for yourself, right?
Okay.
And I'm consistently, transparent on this podcast as to the reason I chose to become a filmmaker, and that is to inspire and enrich lives with my storytelling. So upon viewing your social media presence, I feel a deeper purpose, particularly toward the youth. And as you mentioned, you are a child youth social worker. Why are you associated so much with the young kind of sports programs in basketball? I've seen a lot of content related to that. Is there any particular reason?
Right. Yeah, for sure. It's a good question. One, I was a beneficiary of these programs as a kid, right? Like I benefited off from sports programs, like after school pickup programs, rec center pickup basketball matches, Saturday soccer pickup matches, that comes with a barbecue. So I've been a benefit of like having sports create a space for me where I can actually live a healthy lifestyle as a child. So I've always been involved with sports from that aspect. So as I got older, I got more into coaching than actual being an athlete. Right? One, like getting older, not as quick as anymore. However, like I need to transition. And so that's originally how I got involved with coaching in the sports and also coaching my school and my students. But then again, as time went on, I realized that there are also a lot of other sports, young up and coming sports, like I like to call them companies. However, sports enthusiasts and programs that need support, that are just getting started in terms of, hey, one of them is my good friend, AJ Mandani, great guy, great basketball player, played all overseas. He trains a bunch of 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds who are up and coming basketball players from Canada.
Yeah.
And he created a platform where these kids can come in every Sunday and every twice a week where they can come and work on their skills. My role is not to highlight him doing that so that he can at least now get more kids to get this experience. So in addition to that, as well as highlighting individual athletes, like growing up, I was an athlete that I wish there was a camera. I barely have any footage of me playing, right? And I wish I had a camera to cover some of my greatest moments and highlights. So now what I'm doing is that I'm that camera for an individual who wants that highlight moment, and I'll highlight them, and then I'll put together footage for them so that they can at least showcase, and when they show it to their kids and their grandkids. I know many of us will have the opportunity to play sports, but many of us don't have the opportunity to play professional sports, and professional sports comes in with the whole umbrella of resources and connections, but the average student doesn't have it. The average kid doesn't have that. And if I can give him a space where I can do that for him, and then so be it. So many of my, the past couple of months, I've been doing a lot of driving to different locations, different gyms, different athletic centers, and just with my camera and just covering them and then editing it out and posting on my Instagram. So
that's amazing. You're giving them the space, right, to kind of spread their message. And kind of like, advocate the importance of sports, right? Speaking about, connecting with people, sports allows that, right? Like I wasn't too crazy about sports growing up, but I always kind of enjoy the camaraderie, right? Like the idea of being, teaches you how to be a team player, right? Socialization, right? That's something that seems to be dying in today's age. It's important to have those kind of communication skills, and using your social media presence to kind of leverage that. I'm glad to see that you're seeing success for yourself in that area.
Oh, absolutely. Like I'm not gonna lie to you, it has really brought in a blessing to my life since I've been doing this, but because it's coming from a genuine aspect. Like I'm not here looking for any gains. Like it's what I realized, that especially in the social media, and you posted a message the other day, if you do genuine work and if you go there with honesty and good faith, a lot of bonuses will come your way. And that's one thing I realized, that I've been getting a lot of good blessings by just doing this, the most simplest work, and has opened a lot of doors for me.
Absolutely, buddy. Absolutely. And I want to know from you, like, so what is the lasting message you wish to leave behind for all those listening who struggle with their mental health and at times believe there is no way out?
I like that. Well, the message is honestly, though, that I can say, that I can leave with them, is to simply, the whole purpose of life is that it's to try. right? The whole point is to not stop. I know every day it's never gonna get. There isn't such thing as a perfect day. There isn't such thing as a perfect world. There isn't such thing as a perfect time, perfect space. However, what you are in control of is what you can only control, and that is to get up every day and to get on your path and to move forward. As long as you're moving forward, and not taking back steps, you are on the right path. And trust me, everything else will fall in place. In addition to that, I few messages I would like to leave with people is that, hey, whenever an opportunity comes to your door, always open it.
Yeah.
Don't shut it down. You never know what's behind it. Just check it out. Learn to understand that not everyone can be helped. Some people have to be given space and let time heal.
Yep.
All right. This is not a race. Everyone has their own path in life, is running at their own speed, cannot compete with somebody else. Just work at your own pace and keep moving. As long as you keep moving, trust me, everything else will fall in place.
These are such valuable points, man. I'm telling you, like they all relate to me. That's something I need to remind myself, man, every day.
For real. Keep moving. You're only in control of what you can control. The rest will fall in place.
It's so true, man. Like, and you said it right there. Like everyone's working at their own pace. For some reason, we as humans feel the need to compare. If you're 25, you need to be at this point in your life, but it doesn't work like that, right?
It'd be ridiculous for us to compare ourselves to Gary Vee or Joe Rogan today and get mad for not getting the results they're seeing after every post.
Well, people forget too, right? Like that's something that the brain is an odd circuitry, right? Like it's just the way it plays tricks on us. If you look at Gary Vee, or if you look at like anyone that's successful, you forget that at your age, right? At your point in time, like where were they? Like think about that, right? Like Gary Vee at 27 didn't exist. Like he was stocking shelves at a liquor store,
right?
Which he explicitly reminds people. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't making good money until 34. You know what I mean? Like full-time job. Like started my business. I mean, but I don't know. It's like interesting to wrap your head around because you look at him now and you're saying, "Oh my God, like he's doing so much. What am I doing?" And you're like, "Damn, the guy's like in his 40s. He has 2 kids. He has a family. Like this guy lived
the whole entire life before he was Gary Vee that we know."
I know. And that's what I'm saying, right? It's like 27, like even Drake right now, right? Like Drake's at the top of his career. Everybody loves him. If you're a guy, you're saying, holy shit, he's got the money, the fame, the girls. And you're saying to yourself, yeah, but this guy's in his 30s now. It's like late 30s.
I remember him on Degrassi.
Right?
Like when he was like, you know what I mean?
On the wheelchair. Yeah. Wasn't he?
Yeah.
On
the wheelchair. And now he's Drake.
Yeah. And he was, I don't know, like I saw a clip of him. They honored him at the Billboard Awards, right? And I saw, he was doing this whole like promo skit about like, let me tell you something, and then there was a clip of him like at a Lil Wayne concert, like kind of taking it in, like, cause he was shadowing him or, Lil Wayne took him on, whatever.
Right.
But what I'm saying is like, I don't know why, like I again, as a filmmaker, I'm into like visuals and body language. You see like, this guy's like a green, like he's not the Drake we know now. Like, how there's a lot of bravado and like swag and stuff. Right. It's just a guy taking notes. Like everyone, like girls are screaming and going crazy, and he's just like looking over his shoulder, like he's just like a newbie. Like he doesn't know what's going on. And I bet you he was like probably my age, right?
Fun fact: when Drake came out with his first song, me and my like guys in my school were making fun of him how like whack rapper was, like soft rap. We're making fun of him.
Right. I know.
There's this new rapper from Toronto, Drake. Guys,
get out of here. Who is he? Yeah,
get
right.
Out of here,
there you go. See? Oh my God, that's insane to hear. And that's what it is, man. You just got to keep going, man. Holy shit, amazing. Put it into perspective. That's all I gotta say. Right.
So let me ask you a question.
Yeah, 100%.
As a filmmaker and as a content maker, what do you find to be the most challenging for you in terms of your aspect of your line of work? So do you find it difficult, getting the content, or do you find is it challenging after that content is posted to get it to the next level? Like walk me through what is some of the challenges you find as a filmmaker, as a content maker?
Yeah. I appreciate you asking that. Actually, for me, making the content,
how do you problem solve like that?
Yeah. For me, making the content, I always will say it's like the hardest part, only because like I care more about how it's made. Like when you make something that meaningful, then you worry about the distribution. But I would say now, as I'm more into it, right, as I develop more projects, it's really the distribution. It's really getting the eyes on it, right, like the attention. My films have been progressing, like in terms of its audience, more and more as I do them. Like there are people that will reach out to me. There are people that I'll create new clientele or future opportunities for new projects. But for the podcast, I'll run into people like, they'll say, oh, you're doing a great job with the podcast, it's growing and things like that. But I feel like it's very challenging sometimes to kind of get it promoted, like get it out there. It's my means of, I guess, editing it, like cutting it up into different ways of distributing it. So what I mean by that is, I not only have the full segment of the video, but I'll do clips, and then I'll now do reels. So that's been working well in my favor as well. But I think, distribution is a huge thing. People struggle with creating the content. I do as well, but not so much because I'm very disciplined and I make it happen. My biggest challenge now, and that's something that I'm striving towards, is taking it to the next level, like getting the right eyes to see it. And I'm doing that now with increasing the production value and the budgets with my projects. Like I got one this weekend that I'm shooting, that I'm directing. And another one that's like, we intend to get a 6-figure budget. So it's important, to look at those ways, look at those kind of aspects in order to kind of get the right people to look at your project. But yeah, man, that's a very interesting question. For me, I would say distribution is probably the hardest part. I think a lot of filmmakers go through that. Filmmakers that are successful now, like once it's done, like how are you getting it out there, right? I don't fear as much now because my attitude, my motto, man, is like Gary Vee style: do it, get it done, and then put it out there. Even if you don't find the right distributor, there's tons of social media channels that will take care of that for you. The hardest part is putting it out there, right? Showing up, like I said, and the market will ultimately decide, like if it's good, it's good. And if it's not, it's not. You'll get the feedback, right? You can't blame it and say, oh, like if this person saw it, I would have made it, right? All you can do really is take advantage of those opportunities, those openings to put your work out there, but you need to be prepared by having the work for it, right? So that's something that I kind of pride myself on, is that I'm always available with my portfolio or the next project. I never kind of like to procrastinate or kind of way too much perfection on something. Needs to, be just right in order to put it out. Things can always be improved upon. Even now when I put out something, it's like, oh, that could have been different. I could have changed that angle, that lighting.
Right.
But there's a lot of creatives, buddy, like that I've crossed paths with, that they're like that. And they make me very nervous, only because time is not on your side. You gotta eventually know when to call it quit, like not quits, but just say enough is enough, wrap it up. And then you move on to the next project, right? Because would you rather have a filmmaker that, I give you my business card and you see one film on my tab, on my video tab, or would you rather see 20 films that I made in the last 2 years, right? Exactly, right? Yeah. Because from those 20, there might be 2, there might be 3, maybe even just 1. The probability is even higher that you'll like, or that you'll resonate with, or that you'll send to someone else, right? But if you just have one, that's a shitty gamble. So that's the way I look at it, man, is that I can only control the means that I have right now. I'm getting better and I'm expanding my network more and more. This podcast has helped me so much. So grateful for people like yourself, meeting people. But at the same time, I can only control what I create. I can't control, the distribution. I can't control like what the market will like. What I can control, though, is that I'm constantly persisting at my craft, looking to get better. By age 30, I said it right now on the podcast, I always tell people I intend to make my first feature. So I believe that's doable, in the next 2-3 years, by continuing to progress as a filmmaker, as a director, and learning to work with the right cast and crew, and understanding budgets and production setups and things like that. I will get to that point. And that's why, like, again, I have passion projects, right? So I have feature film projects that I've written since I was 17. And I've written one recently in the pandemic. So that way, when I do get to that opportunity, again, being prepared, you have someone that says, oh, I really like these 5 shorts. Like, do you have any features, like something we can sell, something we can market? Or if you want to make a film, like, do you have anything that you've written, right? Because that's something that a lot of directors struggle with, is that I've heard they don't even have stories of their own or scripts. They kind of rely on other people to write the stories. Right. So for me, it's like, don't rely on anyone, rely on yourself, right? Only you can make your dream possible. So that's why I do everything, right? Cinematographer, editor. I try to dip my toe in everything because I want to ensure that when that time comes, and I'm talking to someone that has the opportunity to like fund my project, I'll say, this is the script I've been working on. Here it is. It's 120 pages, feature film. Let's go. You know what I mean? Let's make this happen.
Ready.
You know?
Ready.
Right? It's
So
not,
you don't have to-
we got to find someone that can write a script for you, or like I
No.
got to work with it. No, it's like, boom, this guy already has 4 fucking scripts and more to come. You know, like
I
he's
think
ready. You know,
one of my favorite athletes of all time said it the best, and he said, Deion Sanders said, "Stay ready, so you don't have to be ready."
Exactly.
He's like
that's
always ready to go.
Tattoo that right now on your arm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
no, for
that's
real
amazing.
though, right?
Yeah,
Stay
yeah.
ready, so you don't have to be ready.
100%. Always be prepared. Honestly, Ahmed, I really appreciate you coming on the podcast, discussing your journey. Really, really love this positive energy, this vibe you give off. Always see, every time I talk to him, I'm always smiling. I'm always
You're
thinking
my guy,
of,
man. You're my guy. I think this is the beginning of a friendship. I look forward to constantly connecting with you. Hey, one, you got a fan in me, so definitely you got my support and going forward.
Yeah,
all that stuff. But however, like I just want to say, man, thank you for having me on your platform. You're a humble dude. You're a hard worker, man, and everything that comes your way, dude, you deserve it, and I hope you get it.
Thank you, sir. I really appreciate that, Ahmed. And back at you, man. Like, really enjoyed speaking with you. You're a good-natured soul. Like, and I can see that you're only on the cusp of, you know, what you can help your community in bringing light to many of these issues that a lot of people struggle with today. So thank you again for your service and that. I appreciate that. All right.
For sure. No, thank you so much, brother.
Of course. So thank you again, Ahmed Suli, for coming back on the podcast. Thank you again, everybody, for listening, and we'll talk soon.